So yes, the Epstein files. My boy's got a video on it, and I've been dying to watch it. Just came out recently. Anything Epstein right now, I'm in there, bro. I'm in there. I was too lost years back when they were talking about Pizzagate and the Wayfair thing, which I hope he talks about in this. The Wayfair thing was crazy. Now with all the files coming out, finding out it's true, sickening. So let's see what he dug up.
Jeffrey Epstein is perhaps the greatest intelligence asset of all time, connected to everything from child trafficking, arms deals, and the world's most successful blackmail operation implicating the global elites. And after months of U.S. leaders like Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel denying the files even existed, the Department of Justice dropped over 3 million supposedly unredacted Epstein files. Today, we head to Washington, D.C. to speak with politicians that have seen the raw documents. And we asked them what they've uncovered, how deep does Epstein's operation go, and who are the co-conspirators that we should be investigating further. We also tackle questions of Epstein's substantial connections to Israel, as well as darker conspiracies surrounding an elite satanic cabal. We will also be joined by journalists who have done extensive research on Epstein to plug in the gaps that our politicians may have not had the time to cover or, due to foreign pressure, do not wish to discuss. Let's dive in.
I hope they talk about the Wayfair thing and the Pizzagate thing.
We're just outside the White House. There's chaos around here. There's lots of news reporters, protesters. Our greatest ally, Benjamin Netanyahu, just got to town. And right now, the American public is finding out some of the contents of the unredacted Epstein files. And what we're learning is making us sick that some of the most powerful, influential men on the planet and in our country are involved. And they're hiding, they're trying to cover it up, they're trying to act like it's not a big deal. I mean, we have our FBI director lying under oath. We have Pam Bondi saying that there's nothing to be seen here. Howard Lutnick, our Treasury Secretary, says only went to his next door neighbor's house once and never again, but then we see him bringing his kids to an island of a file in Africa. So we're going to be speaking with senators and representatives that have seen the unredacted files and are leading the fight to release them so that we, the public, we, the people, know what is going on with our country. We're a few minutes from the Congressional building, where we'll be having our first meeting of the day.
So I don't know if you know that when these people that he's going to meet, they'll probably say, but they went there and the files weren't only redacted, but they were redacted on top of being redacted. So they have this new software that the CIA was testing for redacting documents, and it's able to not only redact it once, but redact it twice. So you would have to do a double layer of deciphering and coding, and you need someone that would be able to go into the back end and find it out that way. So it's a lot harder, which in layman's terms made it a lot harder for the people to just unredact the documents, you know?
Hello, hello. You just got back from the DOJ. Did you get your hands on unredacted files?
Some, yes. Some files I was looking for today weren't in the database.
Nancy Mace is one of the few Republicans that is using her voice to demand the Epstein files be released.
My heart and my pain is with the Epstein victims, and is with every single man, woman, and child who's ever been abused and never gets justice.
And some of the files
That's why it's hard to keep watching this, is because they never get justice. And even with all of this, you got like very powerful men just laughing during press conferences when they ask about, are you going to release the Epstein files? You got Lex Wessinger in the background just laughing at what's going on. Like, this is just all a joke. Kids getting, abused is just a joke.
We're still redacted. So that's a problem.
Me and Carmine were saying we should just do a pay-per-view of all the people that were actually found guilty of, hurting these children. Do a pay-per-view of the waterboarding pay-per-view or something like that. The torture pay-per-view for all these sexually deviant animals, and monsters. Disgusting.
And the excuse that the DOJ gives you is that this is the way the data was provided to them, so it's not their fault. The most important document is a co-conspirator document on investigations into co-conspirators that is still fully redacted. And I want the co-conspirator information. I want to know who was investigated and not charged. I want to know why there were so many plea deals and so many immunity deals only to put one person in jail. This doesn't make sense to me. How do you have thousands of victims?
Did you see the thing where they don't even think that that's her? Asmund Gold ran it through Grok and Gemini, and to see if the pictures of the person that testified and the person, Ghislaine Maxwell, of the picture of her before she went into prison, and they ran the two together and said it was a 99% probability that these are two completely different people. Yes, people age. I understand that, and your bone structure gets different, your nose gets bigger, but not that fast within that short of a time, and you don't get a cleft chin, or that cleft chin doesn't just automatically get removed when as you get older. It's just there are certain features that stick with you regardless of age.
And one accomplice?
What does that make you think if you were going there as a congresswoman to the DOJ and it's still redacted?
But this is going to go down as one of the greatest conspiracies, or one of the greatest cover-ups, one of the greatest cover-ups in American history.
And who is responsible for the cover-up?
A lot of people. We're talking about multiple administrations, multiple DOJs, multiple FBIs. This goes back to the Bush era. These are prosecutors, these are solicitors, these are law enforcement agents that are basically letting these guys walk free because they have a title or a tiara or a B by their name for billionaire, or maybe they're rich and famous. I saw lots of names in there, and I'm going to be sending a long list of names to the Oversight Committee asking them to come testify. And I'm not saying those people are criminals. I'm not saying they did anything. I'm just saying I think they have information that would be very valuable to the victims and the American people.
We are on our way to the Department of Justice. We're going to be interviewing a congressman fresh after he sees the redacted files. So I think it's important to get your news from unbiased sources. And that's why the sponsor of today's episode is Straight Arrow News. So if you want to get educated on a variety of topics, you can talk about U.S. news, you can talk about politics, lifestyle, sports. For example, today, the Epstein files are trending big time. And this is where I found the article where Pam Bondi has been trading insults in her 5-hour hearing that she had with them. And she says, and I quote, that there's
when
no
she said the S&P 500, that was her debate against what
this is why I think it's very
her reasoning was, that they released the victims' names when they told them not to, and they still redacted the names that they told them to not redact. So her response was, well, the S&P and the Dow are doing great, and the economy is better than it's ever been. Well, we're not talking about the economy. We're talking about children,
the Department of Justice,
and we're talking about
buildings. And we're waiting for our congressman to come out and talk about what he's learned.
Felony, criminal acts.
How are you? Ro Khanna, alongside Thomas Massey, is the man spearheading the bipartisan push to have the files released. We catch him as he's exiting the DOJ fresh from seeing unredacted documents.
Not just
Here's what he found out.
They didn't
Tell us about
rob
what you
anybody.
saw in there with the
it's not like
access.
insider trading.
It's the second time I was there. It's a small cubicle. There are about 4 computers, and you sit in there, you type in the Bates numbers, and then you see the documents. Some of them you get to see the unredacted version. The problem is, a lot of the documents you see, they still have the redactions. And the question is really, who are they protecting? Why are they covering up some of these men, and why were these files scrubbed in March at the FBI?
Senator Durbin claims his office was told that the FBI was pressured to scrub through volumes of Epstein-related documents and to, quote, flag any mentions of President Trump.
Right now, guys, I think we're in an extreme moral predicament in this country, and I don't care. We need to forget Democrat, Republican, and realize that this is actually something that can unite us, the people back home. I think we all have very common things that we want. We want our government not to be having sex with children and covering up for the people that are. We want affordable housing. We want health care that works for us. We want politicians that tell us the truth.
Can you also remember that movie, The Sound of Freedom, when it came out, and how they were trying to ban it from movie theaters and they weren't allowing it to be seen? Even major studios wouldn't publish it, or wouldn't they wouldn't take on the script, so they had to make it themselves and do it independently. And when they tried to push it into theaters, no one would let them, and it still made a shit ton of money, which is crazy. You think the studios would want that to be in their movie theaters, and you would think that they want to make money, but for some reason with this topic they didn't want to touch it, and they tried to get it shut down multiple times. Well, that's the story anyway, and you could see why a couple years later. It's gross, man, dude. The Wayfair
We're here
thing
for an
is
interview with
even
Senator Rubin.
wild. Like, it's so wild, that Wayfair shit. I gotta pull it up after this. If they
Just
don't
this
talk
week,
about
we've
it.
had unredacted drops start coming out. Did you get the impression that guys like Mike Johnson were trying to delay this as much as possible?
Yeah.
This is Ruben Gallego, a former Marine and current Arizona senator, and he's one of the key figures from the Senate pushing for the release of the documents, and here's his take on what's unfolding.
We'll give credit where credit is due, right? When the vote actually happened, the Republicans voted for it. But they did everything possible to avoid the vote altogether. And I got into it with little Mike in front of his office because, he was holding up a woman who was a friend of mine, who won her congressional seat and held her up for more than 40-something days, because if she would have gotten sworn in, then she would have signed the discharge petition, which would have forced the vote, right? So he absolutely was covering up for the.
What do you think Speaker Mike Johnson's motivation was for delaying the files?
Because he does not want to get sides with the president. The president knows that there's a lot of dirty shit about him and his friends and all his rich, powerful friends in there. And the best thing he could do is just to avoid it altogether and avoid having the vote. So he would just rather do that than actually deal with the reality that the president, at least knew about the was happening at Epstein and other places, and a lot of the rich friends that we're now discovering that were also, with Epstein. And those rich friends, by the way, aren't just Democrats and aren't just Republicans. They're like, people that are very powerful and friends with all sides, but they need to be exposed too.
We get taxed too damn much to not demand accountability.
Yeah.
I can't even go to take my baby to an emergency room without paying $800 while they are on private pay. All the people that make the laws up here, they're on their own
can't even
fancy
buy a
insurance
house anymore.
If you get elected, your job is to serve your country and serve your people to the highest degree. And right now we have all of these people in office that are just unanimously doing what most of us don't want. And I think we have to put our foot down a little bit. I think people have to go to prison.
Yes.
I think there needs to be a heavy wave of public accountability, because I don't know about you, but I don't even recognize the country I'm living in anymore. I believe America is a great place.
When I walked out of prison 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't
Much
recognize
better
it either.
when we get
I
people
was
that
lost.
actually care about the people in office.
I was lost. I was like, what the fuck is
No,
woke
buy
in
my
here?
merch instead. Actually, that's
This-
good
this whole
transition.
gay
Guys, we
and
have
and,
anti-government t-shirts
LGBTQ
launching.
shit,
They look like this.
IQ. And
They look like this. These are badass shirts that help you take a stand against what is happening.
yeah, I'll leave a link of this video in the description, because I'm gonna watch another one of his videos too. Been waiting to watch it a little bit actually. He goes to a prison.
Hello.
We're
How are ya?
definitely watching that.
Tommy. This is Eric Swalwell. He's a representative and currently the front runner in the California governor race to take over as Gavin Newsom runs for president. Eric has questioned both Kash Patel and Pam Bondi under oath, and
Patel's
here's
such
what he
a
had to say about
fucking
that
plant,
experience. The Epstein files.
Bondi is the worst.
I saw you question Kash Patel under oath.
Yeah.
What was that like? What'd you learn?
I mean, world-class bullshitter, 24-karat liar to Congress. And that's what I started
And he said
Bondi
24
with
carat
today.
liar because
which
he's good
is,
at
I
lying,
asked
and
Kash, I
he's
said,
also
how many times
fucking carroted
was
up.
Trump's name in the files?
It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
It's not.
leads me-
It's not.
Think
Is
his
it at least
girlfriend's
500
like a
times?
No.
Is it at least
What's
100
her friend,
times?
right?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
My job is to provide for the safety and security of this country.
And it turns out I should have started at like
Then what do you
38,000,
fuck are you
right?
doing?
Folks, what's said about President Trump
What
in
are
this
you
latest
doing,
file
my
release is
friend?
concerning. Representative Ted Lieu said that the files contain
Children are the most
allegations
important
of
part of this
Donald Trump
country, so where the
eating
fuck is
children.
that happening?
Donald Trump threatening to children.
However, Trump has interpreted the release of these files much differently, and when asked about it, he said 3 times within 20 seconds.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated, and I've been totally exonerated, and I've been totally exonerated.
Listen,
Needless to say, it will be interesting to see whether...
Do you think Trump was on that island? 100%. And do I think he knew what was going on? No, I really don't think so. And if he did know what was going on, it wasn't to the extent of what it was. But still, fucked up. You know, like extremely fucked up. It's just what powerful men do. Like, especially if you're Jeffrey Epstein too, he can get you cut down in a second. Especially if he's an asset, you know, who we don't really know for sure if he was. But if he was, and these people knew that he was, or had a feeling he was, no one would really want to touch him. That's, you either just back away and act like, you know, oh, I got other things to do, or, you know, you might just get screwed over.
U.S. presidents mentioned in the files like Clinton and Trump will ever have to submit to further investigation.
I didn't start
Clinton just
high enough, and so I just wanted the Attorney General today to understand the reason so many of the survivors were present and pissed is because the last time someone from the Department of Justice came, they were lied to.
Just a
A lot of Americans are suspecting that our FBI director lied under oath.
He absolutely
not with a kid too.
lied
Was
under
with
oath.
a
And,
fucking
you know, that
grown ass
the punishment
woman.
for lying is, you know, what they are trying to do against all of their enemies. And I'm just saying, just tell us the truth right now.
That's
Do you think
all
it's
we
possible
want.
that the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, lied under oath?
I think it's possible.
And what is the punishment for lying under oath?
Well, it's a crime, so punishable with prison time. To say that there's no evidence in those files is just a flat-out lie.
The reason they know they can lie under oath is because they are anticipating this president to give them a pardon.
I guess first of all, let's just clear the air. Did you visit the island?
No.
Okay. This is Mark Kelly, a former NASA astronaut and a current senator from Arizona, and he's on the short list of Democratic candidates who may run for president in 2028. Here's what he had to say about this Epstein drama. A lot of people are coming out in the unredacted files that are still redacted somehow. It appears we have, from the top down, a concerted effort to push this under the rug. Can you describe this from your point of view?
Well, you know, in the unredacted files, right, they unredacted some of the victims' names, so they get thrown out there. The names of co-conspirators, which were supposed to be unredacted, are still redacted. So they couldn't even get this straight. And we now have the ability to go over to DOJ and log on to some kind of computer. They have like 4 terminals for 535 members of Congress.
So they're making this on purposely difficult to do?
I think so.
So then the question people have is, who actually committed the crimes?
You named 6 guys recently.
Right.
That should be investigated further.
Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World. Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI. And there are more names I found today that I'm going to ask if those redactions were appropriate.
Can you speak to how this current administration seems to be covering things up?
Well, I will tell you, it's under the Trump administration that this information is coming out. Biden didn't do it. Obama didn't do it. Bush didn't do it. So I want to give a lot of credit to the president for signing this into law.
Would you put Trump on that list?
No, I would not. I mean, Trump is exonerated in the files. He got rid of Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. I mean, he called law enforcement. He talked to the FBI. He talked to the police. I mean, he was like the only whistleblower. Back in the early 2000s, I mean, that was Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think they're keeping people hidden. Right? And remember what Kash Patel said a number of years ago that, you know, Donald Trump was only like in there, like, I don't know how many times he said. It was a small number of times.
He was the one, they said that he was the only one fighting for the kids.
You know, mentions.
That was back when the pizza
We just got out of Nancy
happening.
Mace's office, and she said that, you know, these files have vindicated Trump.
Well, I haven't looked at millions of documents.
I'm not saying that
I don't know how
he's
she has.
innocent at all.
I believe Donald Trump has a lot of questions to answer about
I just don't
what
think that the questions
what he knew,
he just feels
what
like
was
they're
going
not
on,
necessary because
whether
compared to what other
he
people
knew
did.
other people who were these girls.
I guess to say that Trump
Exactly,
isn't
I didn't
forthcoming
think
in
he
this,
was
I feel like
doing
it's,
that.
I don't know
I don't
how you
think
can
he was
interpret it
doing
in
that.
that fashion.
Well, he signed it
He
into
could've
law.
had
No other
any
president
girl
has
he
done that.
wanted,
So I think we have
really.
to give credit where credit is due.
Let's be real.
The documents that I want to see that aren't redacted, supposedly, allegedly,
I can see why he would
they
do
weren't
that,
redacted by the
because
Southern
he's a
District of New
gross
York. That's
old
not
man who
Trump
can't
that
get
did that,
anything.
okay? That is SDNY
Trump
that
is
submitted
just a
documents to the
powerful
DOJ
man.
that were redacted. That they
It's the part where he said
supposedly
it's a
don't have that
hoax,
information.
There's no story here. That's what him and Vance
That's
and the
not
whole
like-
and Bondi and Patel were saying
Like,
for months until this
You could suck his dick
unredacted
and not
information.
cry afterwards.
Did someone email 38,000 times Donald Trump after 2019 when he was president? I don't know. But what I do know is that victims like Virginia Giuffre Roberts vindicated Trump, that exonerated him. All of the victims that I have talked to have exonerated the president. Do I think this has been handled perfectly? Absolutely not. I don't think that's his fault. I think there are people that are giving him bad advice.
Is there anything that you saw today? It could be even little
100%.
information, but anything that you can give the American people an idea of what's really in the unredacted files.
There are a lot of victims' names. I mean, like a lot of the redactions that you see, it's just victim after victim after victim.
Pam Bondi's DOJ leaked the names of hundreds of victims, but kept perpetrators' names redacted. And when asked if she would be
greatest
investigating any of the
response of all
actual
time.
criminals, she said this with the Epstein victim standing behind her.
I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through.
She then tried to sidetrack by talking about how great the economy is.
The Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin.
Which is strange because at one point in her career, she was apparently serious about fighting sex trafficking.
Children are
God, of course
enslaved
she
and
was,
abused.
because she wanted to get
I knew
that
we
spot.
needed all hands
Now she's
on
doing
deck.
whatever she's
And
got
while
to do
she
to
doesn't
protect
seem
the people
interested
that
in
are behind her.
investigating anyone from the list, she does appear to be investigating the search history of every representative looking into the files.
Accusing Attorney General Pam Bondi of spying on their search history within the unredacted Epstein files.
And by the way,
This is
all
Zach
the senators are good at stock trading. Most stock traders look at Nancy Pelosi's list, like they'll go through all of her trades, find her trades, and just mimic her trades on a daily basis, because she is known for using the information that she gets from inside these meetings that they're not supposed to use and giving them to her husband or using them for herself. And there's nothing that they can do to prove it. Look that shit up too. Anything that goes on in there, insider trading is not really anything that they can prove or anything that they can go after, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So all of them are good at trading because they are in the fucking rooms when they hear what's going on with certain things. Like they knew about COVID before COVID happened. So they knew these pharmaceutical companies were going to go through blow through the roof. And they knew that certain other industries were going to fail. So they trade in the trades. Go look at their trades. You'll see that they backed out days before the COVID was announced. And they made millions of dollars.
An independent journalist who spent many hours digging into the Epstein files and documenting the web of suspects involved. Here's what he had to say about his research. Spoke with some politicians about the Epstein files, but I'm finding it a little underwhelming what they're revealing. For example, I asked them about Israeli connections in the files. They said they didn't see any. What did you see?
Well, I think what anybody can see is the amount of people that are connected to the money, the politics, and the power structure that comes out of Israel, Mossad, things like Ehud Barak, who was known to stay at Epstein's residence in Manhattan,
just looks like
which
a
was
creep,
given to
you know
him,
what I mean?
that Manhattan residence, by Les Wexner, who was also the funder and financier of the Mega Group, which was a group of philanthropic, quote-unquote, Jewish billionaires that include people like the Ron Lauders and others that are in the Cabinet Association and the banking systems, and it all stems out of this country that came to us in the 40s from a declaration to the Rothschilds.
Tell us about Ron Lauder.
He is the heir of the Estee Lauder fortune, big cosmetic brand. And the Estee Lauder fortune allowed him to make a lot of philanthropic moves. For example, he funds many Jewish and also anti-Semitic foundations like anti-Semitism. He is the president of the World Jewish Congress.
I don't know if this is verified, but I see that he's mentioned at least 1,000 times in the files so far.
The name mentioned, yeah, but a lot of times with the numbers, there are duplicates.
Imagine if you're like
right?
the
There are
world white
duplications. You can find
Caucasian
articles dating back to 2010 when he's being mentioned as one of Bibi's closest associates. Bibi Netanyahu's closest associates, the prime minister, having the defense minister in his house. Epstein, 36 times. So
damn.
Epstein hosted Ehud Barak in his house 36 different times, verified.
A lot of Baraks.
And Ehud Barak was the defense minister under Bibi Netanyahu.
So to say the following, there is heavy Israeli involvement, there's heavy elite Jewish involvement. Is that anti-Semitic or factual?
It's not anti-Semitic, because you could get down to the grassroots of what the word anti-Semitism means and the fact that a Palestinian group would be just as Semitic as someone from Israel. But it's not anti-Semitic to look into the depths of the corruption of the Israeli government and their control over our ideology through things like surveillance, yes, but also just mass media ownership.
Every single
Absolutely.
representative I questioned
Just
about
like
the
the
files,
Somali
including at
shit,
least
too.
one that has an Israel flag in front of his door, said that there is no known Israel connections. Why do you think they said that?
There's just too much involvement in not just these elites and their religion, but also their money.
All about the moolah. Give me that paper. Give me that paper.
What's up, man?
How you doing,
See
bro?
ya.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
This is Julian Andrioni. The organization he works for, Dropsite News, has relentlessly covered the Epstein files and the Israeli ties within. Julian is their Capitol Hill reporter, boots on the ground, pressing our politicians for answers. Here's what we learned from him. To me, I think you and Dropsite News are doing some of the best reporting on the internet right now. You've been covering the Epstein files extensively. If we've talked to representatives and we're not learning anything new that we haven't already seen online.
No? They're
really.
not talking to you about it?
No. Is that your experience as well?
I wouldn't say they're teaching us anything new. My boss over at Dropsite, Ryan Grimm, has been writing.
Who's the man, by the way?
He is the man. He's been writing a lot about it, and that's where we're finding out a lot of new stuff. Obviously, the DOJ has vast majority of the documents still redacted, even for members of Congress who've been invited to go read the unredacted versions, and so that's unacceptable pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It's illegal, and so they're violating federal law, and I think that people who violate federal law should be prosecuted.
My worry is that a lot of the representatives are going to steer this into a particular bucket. Mostly, they're going to make it about Trump or a small group of people, and they're going to miss some of the bigger picture things like the arms dealing,
what I think they're trying to do.
Potential baby sacrifice, the Israeli connections. What should people know about what's really going on in the files?
So I think that your analysis at the beginning there is correct. I think that placing the blame on Trump entirely is convenient for folks who don't want to talk about some of the broader developments regarding intelligence, regarding foreign policy aims. I think that a lot of this was in service of a broader worldview. Folks who think that they can operate a pseudo-state and manipulate intelligence agencies that are supposed to be serving the people of a certain country that duly elect representatives to the halls of Congress, and I think we have the Epstein class and the Davos class sort of manipulating that to serve their own foreign policy aims. And newsflash, but they are not a government, so they cannot do that.
Dropsite News has frequently referred to the people involved in the files as the Davos or Epstein class, and their theory is that Epstein is not merely a CIA or Mossad operative, but actually a level above.
The kind of global elite as kind of organized around that Davos conference, or this Davos crew out there. The CIA, it's more properly understood that CIA works for them. And Jeffrey Epstein was an integral player in that Davos set.
Meaning that Epstein's true purpose transcended the interests of any single one nation. It appears he was an asset used to advance the agendas of a transnational elite, and if this sounds like a conspiracy theory, just look at the files. They contain literal receipts of the Rothschilds hiring Epstein for a $25 million contract. What about Israeli connections in the
We
files?
have covered that.
And how, as you and Dropsite have analyzed these files, are there Israel connections that we should be talking about?
Yes.
I've had DMs calling me hateful and anti-Semitic for connecting Epstein to Israel, but take a look at this. Dropsite News reporting shows that DOJ documents confirm that, quote, security equipment and alarms were installed as well as specialized surveillance equipment. And tell me in the comments if you think I'm crazy for thinking that Israel might have something to do with the Epstein files.
Jeffrey Epstein was extremely close friends in his personal life with former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. he was using that relationship and using his relationships to other governments to manipulate foreign policy aims that he was interested in. He negotiated a back channel between the Israelis and the Russians during the Syrian civil war in order to install a new government in Syria. That was on behalf of Israel. On behalf of, negotiated arms transfers to certain countries like the Cote d'Ivoire, Mongolia, Nigeria, other countries in Africa and in that region of the world. I'm not saying necessarily that he was working for Israel.
And is it possible that he was working with a few different intelligence agencies and that he was kind of a broker to the highest bidder or to the best friend?
Yes,
and
that's
he gave
possible.
information. He was not a strictly Mossad operator.
No.
Let's talk about the Israelis. I think a lot of young people are really interested in the Israeli angle to this. Can you speak more about that?
We just have no information until, that's why we need to go through the classified information in terms of what his connection was to our government's intelligence or foreign government intelligence. But unless you go and actually see those classified documents, there's no way of knowing, and only a president can order someone to do it. And I think that there are unanswered questions, and they should get the truth out there.
A big question a lot of Americans have is conspiracy theories that we thought were so far out. Pizzagate, satanic rituals.
Yeah.
It seems like if you read some of these files that these are possible theories to investigate now. What have you seen directly looking at these files?
Oh, look, I think some of those conspiracy theories are not true. What I can tell you is through the files is that there is clear evidence that Jeffrey Epstein raped underage girls. There's clear evidence that other people were involved in the rape of underage girls. And there's clear evidence that a lot of our nation's elite.
What about pizza, though?
Global elite showed up to these islands and the ranch knowing that underage girls were being paraded naked or being raped. And you don't have to buy into conspiracy theories, which are not, in my view, true, to believe the fundamental point here, which is that there are 1,200 survivors who were denied justice.
In the fridge?
Were treated as disposable, and the country's elite looked the other way.
Is there anything new that you learned in the last hour or so, even the littlest tidbit that you can break to the American people?
One email is about Epstein was dressing up as Jesus because while he was raping or committing assault on these underage girls. And it's just a level of sadism that is incomprehensible.
Yeah. I guess in the category of people that are either should be investigated or what they were doing. Is it satanic rituals? Are they sacrificing babies?
I didn't see any of the satanic stuff. The shrimp, the pizza, the grape soda, a lot of those emails, it just wasn't what you thought it was. And some of the emails about a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old was a female, I believe. I couldn't see the attachment. Presumably it was their child, right? They were sending a convicted pedophile a picture of their kid. I don't know why that is. I haven't seen any conspiracy theories that are true.
What's that? What was that? What is that? Shit. Damn, really? Is she right? We gotta look into that. We're gonna look into that. She might. Are you sure? I think we found. Are you sure about that? You didn't find anything? You didn't find nothing about that? No? Didn't seem weird? They keep beef jerky in the fridge? And then he was running out? Did it seem weird that they throw a lot of pizza parties? Millionaires throwing pizza parties. Did it seem weird? No. Didn't seem weird that Wayfair had $10,000 for pieces of furniture named after missing children. A cabinet that would most likely fit the size of the girl, worth $10,000. Now, you know, an ordinary human being is not going to buy a cabinet made of metal for $10,000 named Aculia, the Aculia cabinet. I'll show you. You think I'm lying. For $10,000, you didn't find any evidence of fucking any evidence of conspiracy theories. You're absolutely right. We got to listen. To
Not yet. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying it's not
you're
yet.
not saying
Can
it's
it
not
be
there.
possible?
Okay,
I hope
not
it's
yet.
not.
Not yet.
But like at this point,
hope
we
it's
have to
not, does
investigate
not make
everything. We also
it
have to
not
investigate
there.
whether, legitimately, if Epstein was, killed by the government.
I can pray that I don't get caught for robbing the store. Doesn't mean that I didn't rob the fucking store.
Cover up for all these rich men, because there's a lot of questions I think that legitimately we should be asking right now.
After you've seen some of these files, do you think these have
I think there's a lot more women involved than we think too.
You don't talk about jerky
there's
and pizza and cheese and soda pop. Like
grape
I've
soda
been
too.
To
Don't
a
tell me
couple
that you don't think
multimillionaires'
that what that
houses, one
connotation
billionaire's
meant.
house. They don't eat anything that isn't like organic, pre-prepared by some person who's catering or a chef. They have a waiter walking around. There's people walking around with glasses and things. I was at a party where there was a line of IVs of like multivitamins. People were plugging into themselves. Like they take health and longevity extremely seriously. They're not eating Domino's.
Thank you.
Folks, as we dig into the files, let's break down the code word used throughout. Innocent-sounding food references have a darker significance. For example, pizza means little girl and pasta means little boy. Another word used frequently is goyim, meaning non-Jew. Epstein and his network often mock how goyims have to do lower-class things like work to make money or wait in lines, and they express a desire to be in goyim-free gatherings. Now, these revelations are breathing life into the once-dismissed Pizzagate conspiracy. Is it outrageous to say that there are baby sacrifices, satanic rituals being conducted?
It is absolutely outrageous to say, but is it false?
No.
I would verge on the side of saying no, it's not false, but it is outrageous to say. It's pretty well
outrageous
documented
to say because we
some
would
sick shit
never
happening.
think that would
And
happen.
you think it should be under investigation whether people were killing children?
But so did the witch
Yes, but it
trials,
won't.
bro.
Not
The
in my
witch
opinion.
trials
I
happened,
mean, a lot of
bro.
Americans are afraid that no one is
So
going to get
did
in trouble. That's what it
the
feels like right
Holocaust.
now.
No one,
That
let
was
me tell you right now, let me
crazy.
be very
It
straight.
happened though.
No
You would
one
never
is
think
going
that
to get in
something
trouble.
like that would happen.
Nobody
but
is going to go to
that
jail.
happened.
I promise you, nothing's going to happen. And that and there lies is the problem, which is why we need the Epstein victims to be louder than they've ever been before. And we need to just shove it in the faces of people in power in the federal government until they do something and until laws are changed.
I want to circle back to what you just said. You said pretty confidently that you think no one will get in trouble and
I
no
don't
one
think
will
anybody's
go
going to go to trouble.
Why do you
go to trouble? Because I have no confidence in the justice system. We have a two-tiered system of justice in America. We have one for the rich and powerful. We have one for everybody else.
And guess what, everybody? We're everybody else, motherfucker.
It's personal for me.
So we
because I
don't
met
get
these
to eat
survivors.
children.
I
We don't get to
survivors
live 100
texting me
years,
saying,
1,000
giving me
years.
names of people who I should be sending to justice, that they should be investigated. If you really believe in this, you should at least call for Howard Lutnick to step down.
Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, whose sons are facing allegations of profiting big time off the very tariffs their dad helped create, the guy who just got caught lying about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and the same man who eventually had to admit he didn't just go to Jeffrey Epstein's island, but he brought his kids there. Yeah, this guy might need some further investigation.
How can you have someone like that be our representative for business to the world?
Do you think anyone else will get charged?
Yeah, I think so eventually.
So you're confident that more people will be brought to justice?
I'm not sure it's going to be anytime soon because, I mean, what this feels like to me is still a cover-up. But at some point, this
Unless
president's
Donald Trump
gone.
does something
There's a
about
new
it.
administration.
No one else.
And
No one else is going to
we
do
should have
shit.
an administration that's going to provide some needed accountability for all these women. They deserve justice.
Do you think the American people are going
they
to
deserve to not get their names broadcast?
You're gonna put me on camera answering that. I don't want this used in my deposition. I think there is gonna be a point where the American people reach a break. I think it's the very reason the Second Amendment exists is to fight against a tyrannical government. Am I wrong?
got celebrities
well, I know you got to head out to a vote. I want to leave you with this. First of all, the American people are rooting for you, cheering for what you're doing. Very big fan of that. We will not rest until justice is brought to somebody.
Thank God for people like him.
Thank you for fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I think we need to take action in the ballot box. We need to take action with how we fundraise for people. I'm not giving a single vote to anybody that protects the files. I'm not giving a single vote to anyone that funds Israel. There's just these fundamental rifts that if a politician does X, Y, Z, we do not support them and they lose a job. And that's the weapon that we have.
Yeah, people don't realize
our
that.
dollars. I think we maybe should consider not paying taxes, but we do have a voice here and we have a role to play. And we got to step up and play.
I always try to tell this to people that don't realize that to say that we don't have a voice. We definitely do. I don't know if you remember back when the whole GameStop thing happened on Wall Street. And everyone got together on Reddit threads and they were like, you know, GameStop's at a very low price per share. Let's all get together and let's buy as much GameStop shares as we possibly can. And they started posting this on X and blah, blah, blah. And they started riling up. Thing is, I know it wasn't just normal people that did it, but the normal people got other big investors that like to troll, you know, like Elon Musk, and they were all like, all right, I'm buying 400,000 shares. I'm buying 40,000 shares. I'm buying 100,000 shares. And it just kept on growing until they didn't even know how far this thing could go. You had a company valued at basically nothing. They thought it was about to close down. It was about to be bankrupt. Now, like, evaluated at a tremendous amount when it wasn't worth nearly as much. So the price to earn, like the price to actual value was way over, you know? So they were just waiting for that bubble to burst. But we did that. We as a people decided that, hey, let's try and, you know, let's try to see if we can work the system. And we can. Just like the whole video game thing now, too. They're signing a whole petition that we want our media to be ours. And we got over 1 million signatures. Now the government actually has to go and look at this. It's in the UK, not here anyway, but they're taking steps there that hopefully that will come over to the States. And we have a bigger voice than we think. I don't think it's necessarily in the presidential election because the way they have it set up is crazy. Electoral votes and if you go to California, you don't even need a ID. And I think that's some other states too. You don't even need an actual ID to vote. You just need to sign your name. And if the signature looks like anywhere near similar to your signature on file, they'll let you go and vote. So it's crazy. So keep an eye out at this. Don't let these motherfuckers get away with it. Keep pushing, keep asking questions, keep demanding for them to release these files, and keep demanding for justice, bro. Justice for the right things, and justice to the people that are doing the worst of the worst. And we need to hold these people accountable. And we can. We have the right to bear arms. We have the right to make a difference. Let's make a difference. All right, so catch me on the next video. I'm going to dive some more into the Wayfair thing, Pizzagate thing. If you're interested, take a look.
This is our